How to and what is in 501 CAND 501c3. Nonprofit organizations. A nonprofit organization is a group organized for purposes other than generating profit and in which no part of the organization's income is distributed to its members, directors, or officers. Nonprofit corporations are often termed non-stock corporations. They can take the form of a corporation, an individual enterprise, for example, individual charitable contributions, unincorporated association, partnership, foundation distinguished by its endowment by a founder. It takes the form of a trusteeship or condominium, joint ownership of common areas by owners of adjacent individual units incorporated under state condominium acts. Nonprofit organizations must be designated as nonprofit when created and may only pursue purposes permitted by statutes for nonprofit organizations. Nonprofit organizations include churches, public schools, public charities, public clinics and hospitals, amateur sports organizations, political organizations, legal aid societies, volunteer services, organizations, labor unions, professional associations, research institutes, museums, and some governmental agencies. Nonprofit entities are organized under state law. For nonprofit corporations, some states have adopted the revised Model Nonprofit Corporation Act 1986. For nonprofit associations, a few states have adopted the Uniform Unincorporated Nonprofit Association Act, see Colorado Sections 730 to 101 to July 30, 119. Some states exempt nonprofit organizations from state tax and state employment programs such as unemployment compensation contributions. Some states give nonprofit organizations immunity from tort liability, see Massachusetts law giving immunity to a narrow group of nonprofit organizations, and other states limit tort liability by enacting a damage cap. State law also governs solicitation privileges and accreditations requirements such as licenses and permits. Each state defines a nonprofit differently. Some states make distinctions between organizations not operated for LEI greater than WEX greater than nonprofit organizations. Nonprofit organizations. Guidepost https://www.law.cornell.edu/wex/non-profit_organizations. State statutes dealing with corporations. New York Not-for-Profit Corporation Law. State Judicial Decisions, NY. Court of Appeals. Nonprofit decisions. Justia Nonprofit Corporations Opinion Summaries. New York Council on Nonprofits. Not-for-Profit Corporation Law. Everything you need to know. Last updated in July of 2023 by the WEX Donations team. WEX Civics Taxation. U.S. Constitution and Federal Statutes. U.S. Code. 26 U.S.C. Internal Revenue Code. 26 U.S. Code Section 501 Exemption from tax on corporations, certain trusts, etc. CRS Annotated Constitution. Profit without charitable goals like a sports or professional association, and charitable associations in order to determine what legal privileges the respective organizations will be given. For federal tax purposes, an organization is exempt from taxation if it is organized and operated exclusively for religious, charitable, scientific, public safety, literary, educational, prevention of cruelty to children or animals, and/or to develop national or international sports. Social Security tax is also currently optional, although 80% of the organizations elect to participate. The Supreme Court has issued several rulings related to nonprofits. If one were to identify a more recent trend among the rulings, it appears that the court has tried to carve out exceptions which favor non-pro-TS, such as Citizens United v. Federal Election Commission and Advocate Health Care Network v. Stapleton. Citizens United expanded First Amendment protections for non-pro-T organizations with regard to political speech. In the Advocate Health ruling, the court decided that the church plan exemption of the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974 (ERISA) applies to plans that are maintained by a qualifying church-affiliated organization, even if that organization did not originally establish the plan. The Advocate Health decision effectively eased certain ERISA requirements for relevant religious nonprofits. State material, federal material, additional resources, U.S. Code notes, LEE greater than U.S. Code greater than Title 26 greater than Subtitle A greater than Chapter 1 greater than Subchapter F greater than Part 1. An organization described in subsection C or D or section 401 shall be exempt from taxation under this subtitle unless such exemption is denied under section 502 or 503. Title, Section E, B, T. Greater than Section 501. Quick search by citation. Go. Section. Enter Title. 26 U.S. Code Section 501 Exemption from tax on corporations, certain trusts, etc. Exemption from taxation. Acts on unrelated business income and certain other activities. The following organizations are referred to in subsection A. 1. Any corporation organized under Act of Congress which is an instrumentality of the United States but only if such corporation, A, is exempt from federal income taxes. I. Under such act is amended and supplemented before July 18, 1984, or E. Under this title without regard to any provision of law which is not contained in this title and which is not contained in a Revenue Act, or B. is described in subsection L2. Corporations organized for the exclusive purpose of holding title to property, collecting income therefrom, and turning over the entire amount thereof, less expenses, to an organization which itself is exempt under this section. Rules similar to the rules of subparagraph G of paragraph 25 shall apply for purposes of this paragraph. 3. Corporations, and any community chest, fund, or foundation, organized and operated exclusively for religious, charitable, scientific, testing for public safety, literary, or educational purposes, or to foster national or international amateur sports competition, but only if no part of its activities involve the provision of athletic facilities or equipment, or for the prevention of cruelty to children or animals, no part of the net earnings of which inures to the benefit of any private shareholder or individual, no substantial part of the activities of which is carrying on propaganda, or otherwise attempting to influence legislation except as otherwise provided in subsection H, and which does not participate in, or intervene in, including the publishing or distributing of statements any political campaign on behalf of or in opposition to any candidate for public OCE. An organization exempt from taxation under subsection A shall be subject to tax to the extent provided in parts 2, 3, and V of this subchapter, but notwithstanding parts 2, 3, and V of this subchapter, shall be considered an organization exempt from income taxes for the purpose of any law which refers to organizations exempt from income taxes. See L. East of exempt organizations. Google to read full document guidepost https://www.law.cornell.edu/usecode/text/26/501. Exemption Requirements 501 C3 Organizations. Learn more about the benefits, limitations and expectations of tax-exempt organizations by attending 10 courses at the online Small to Midsize Tax-Exempt Organization Workshop. To be tax-exempt under Section 501 C3 of the Internal Revenue Code, an organization must be organized and operated exclusively for exempt purposes set forth in Section 501 C3, and none of its earnings may inure to any private shareholder or individual. In addition, it may not be an action organization, i.e., it may not attempt to influence legislation as a substantial part of its activities, and it may not participate in any campaign activity for or against political candidates. Organizations described in Section 501 C3 are commonly referred to as charitable organizations. Organizations described in Section 501 C3 other than testing for public safety organizations are eligible to receive tax-deductible contributions in accordance with Code Section 170. The organization must not be organized or operated for the benefit of private interests, and no part of a Section 501 C3 organization's net earnings may inure to the benefit of any private shareholder or individual. If the organization engages in an excess benefit transaction with a person having substantial influence over the organization, an excise tax may be imposed on the person and any organization managers agreeing to the transaction. Section 501(c)(3) Organizations are restricted in how much political and legislative lobbying activities they may conduct. For a detailed discussion, see Political and Lobbying Activities. For more information about lobbying activities by charities, see the article Lobbying Issues PDF. For more information about political activities of charities, see the FY 2002 CPE Topic Election Year Issues PDF. Application process step by step. Questions and answers that will help an organization determine if it is eligible to apply for recognition of exemption from federal income taxation under IRC Section 501(a) and interactive training. Additional information. If so, how to proceed. Private foundations. Requirements for exemption. Tax-exempt status. Online training available at the IRS microsite stayexempt.irs.gov. Page last reviewed or updated. The 6th of February 2023. Guidepost https://www.irs.gov/charities- Nonprofits Charitable Organizations Exemption Requirements. 501(c)(3) Organizations. Differences between 501(c) and 501(c)(3). A 501(c) organization and a 501(c)(3) organization are similar in designation, however they differ slightly in their tax benefits. Both types of organization are exempt from federal income tax. However, a 501(c), the third of may allow its donors to write off donations, whereas a 501(c) does not. Legal distinctions. The legal distinctions and definitions between 501(c) and 501(c)(3) organizations lie primarily in their purposes and how they operate. While 501(c) serves as a broad categorization for tax-exempt nonprofit organizations, 501(c)(3) organizations are specifically for religious, charitable, scientific, literary, or educational purposes. 501(c)(3) organizations face stricter regulations regarding their activities, particularly political and lobbying activities, and have additional public transparency requirements, such as making certain financial information publicly available. Fiscal policy tax laws. 501(c) organization. What they are, types, and examples. What is 501(c)? 501(c) is a designation under the United States Internal Revenue Code (IRC) that confers tax-exempt status on nonprofit organizations. Specifically, it identifies which nonprofit organizations are exempt from paying federal income tax. The government offers this tax break to promote the presence of organizations that exist purely for the public good and help them stay afloat. Common tax-exempt organizations include charities, government entities, advocacy groups, educational and artistic groups, and religious entities. The setup. 1. Have faith in self and God, raw. 2. Write a purpose statement. A nonprofit's purpose statement tells why an organization exists as a necessary entity. 3. Name your entity. Get ein for organization. 4. File paperwork to establish a corporation. Articles of incorporation. 5. Appoint a board of directors. Your state may only require one director for a nonprofit board, but the IRS prefers that 501(c)(3) organizations have at least 3 directors. 5 is really best. 6. Write your bylaws. Learn states' laws to write your bylaws. Start by finding out what your state includes in its Nonprofit Corporate Act for nonprofit bylaw inclusions. 7. Apply for your 501(c)(3) status. Applying for 501(c)(3) status allows the IRS to examine your nonprofit structure, purpose, and business dealings to determine if it qualifies as a tax-exempt organization. 8. File paperwork for your state's recognition of tax exemption determination letter stating you are federally tax exempt. 1. CPA for bookkeeping taxes. 2. https://www.grantwatch.com/3. Constant Contact can use to send out mass emails about events. Hope you enjoyed the information. Google for more information. Where to get other resources.